Let's get right into it with Cecile Richards, co-founder of the women's civic group Supermajority, former president of Planned Parenthood, and James Carville, a veteran of presidential campaigns, Bill Clinton's lead campaign strategist, and you may recognize him on your television screen as an MSNBC election analyst. Good to see both of you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
James, I think you would agree and know from hard-earned experience, the farther away an election is, the more can change. But what do you see in the fundamentals here that you think could endure?
Well, the first thing we got to do is secure funding for the Postal Service and election officials around the country. And the Democrats negotiating this bill have to stand firm, and the Democrats, independents, and people who want change in this country have to encourage them to change firm. That is the first thing that has to happen. Unless that happens, bad things will follow. So let's buck everybody up as we go through this. I think Trump was going to lose this before the coronavirus pandemic. I think he's going to lose it worse as a result of that. I think they know that, and I think they're going to try to do anything they can to muck up this election and not let people vote. And the most important thing we can do right now is secure the funding for the Postal Service and secure the funding for secretaries of state and election officials around the country.
When you say you know that, as a strategist who's been inside these kind of battles, what evidence do you see that makes you think they know that?
Well, first of all, it's an 80% wrong track country, and he's an incumbent. In the history of the world of democracy, no incumbent in an 80% wrong track country is going to win an election. It's just fundamental, just basically fundamentals. But if people know that, they're going to try to muck it up. William Barr is the man of, I wouldn't trust him any further than I could throw him, and I guarantee you I couldn't throw him a centimeter. He's so fat. But we have to be vigilant, and we have to give people the opportunity to vote. I'm completely confident that if you give the American people the chance, they're going to vote for change, and they can vote for change in big numbers. But we got to give them a chance. That's what we got to do.
I would have to say, as a journalist, I don't think Bill Barr's weight is relevant to the more substantive issues you raised, James.
No, it's not. But I like to make fun of it. It's a gratuitous cheap shot, but it makes me feel good to do it.
Cecile?
Well, of course, I always agree with James. James, good to see you again. Look, I think the basics are true. Donald Trump has never taken this pandemic seriously. He's never listened to experts. He hasn't had a plan. And 6 months later, that is so evident. I'll tell you the one group of people who have had to have a plan, and that's women. They've had to have a plan to deal with their families, their health care, their jobs, their kids. And that's what you're seeing right now. And James, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, but the reason that Donald Trump is not going to win is because women have left him overwhelmingly across the country. I just looked at numbers for suburban women. The CBS poll, more than 30% of suburban women, it's a 30-point gap. And the state of Ohio, where he just was, he can't win that state. He can't win any of these states with the kind of gender gap we're seeing. And it has been steady. This has not been a fluke. Women want a plan. They want someone who can lead this country. And when you add to this ticket, when Joe Biden announces his vice presidential running mate, I'm telling you, women are on fire already, and they crawl across broken glass to get the polls in November.
Well, let's take broken glass. I would say broken glass potentially from the shattered ceiling if there is a broken barrier on the ticket. I mean, you set it up, Cecile, so I had to. Let's take your question to James with what Donald Trump is doing perhaps against those currents, bringing up new topics, things that he's not known for. He wasn't known, I think it's fair to say, I try to be fair. He was not known throughout his life for his religious activities or his fidelity to the faith. Not my business to grade, but it's not what he was known for. But here he is now, James, take a look.
We're running against a radical left ideology. Their messenger is Sleepy Joe. He's going to do things that nobody ever would ever think even possible because he's following the radical left agenda. take away your guns, destroy your Second Amendment, no religion, no anything, hurt the Bible, hurt God. He's against God, he's against guns, he's against energy.
James?
Well, I was reading about that in 2 Corinthians while I was sitting in Yosemite National Park. I mean, he's just a blathering fool. He's going to say something. He's just going to continue to make a fool of himself. And I don't know why they're taking him off Twitter. They ought to leave him on everything so he can continue to demonstrate his stupidity. I mean, Biden, as I am, is a cradle Catholic. He's totally, a total guy. And Trump they're going to go, now he's against energy. I mean, I don't, how do you answer this? You don't. You just let him sit there and let the camera roll so people can see what a blathering idiot he is.
You know, Cecile, it's always hard to get a full read on where James is coming from.
I know. He's a man of mystery, but of strong opinions. Right?
This is why it was rumored, James. It was rumored that Bill Clinton was thinking about making you a diplomat because you're known for your diplomacy, but then the ambassadorship just didn't work out.
Right, I guess not. I'd have probably stepped on toes. But I think what I say, I think there's real truth to it.
And I think a lot of viewers
rightly and bluntly, but I think at the end of the day, there's truth to it.
Well, you're being blunt, and I'll take it to Cecile. A lot of viewers do come up to me now. We're physically distanced, but when I see them, I still hear from people, well, call it like it is. Look at the way the president is acting. It's not about blue or red when you look at some of the conduct, particularly, Cecile, what you were mentioning about women and families during a healthcare crisis where the president is totally MIA or worse, giving people dangerous misinformation.
Absolutely. And again, that's what we've been seeing consistently with women, women across the board. You know, we just got out of the field having talked to women who are not usual voters, and they are saying they are desperate to vote in this election because they really never appreciated how much damage a president could do to their lives economically. They're so concerned about health care. And then, of course, women, and not only women, but people across the country expected to send their children back to school with no safety measures in place. I think that the time has run out. This president hasn't cared about numbers. I think one person dies every 8 seconds in this country from this pandemic. He doesn't care about numbers of deaths. He doesn't care about numbers of unemployment. He doesn't care about numbers of infections. The only thing he seems to care about are poll numbers. And that's what's driving all of his decision making. And women are simply saying, we need a leader. And you're right, someone who can lead across party, across this country. And Donald Trump had his chance, and he's blown it.
Well, and James, I'm curious. Go ahead.
To her point, I've been talking to a lot of people doing focus groups. Obviously, they call me, and the rural women are turning on Trump big time. And I see this evidence in polls. I see it in evidence of friends of mine who do focus groups, and they have been so let down. And healthcare is just driving a lot of this. It's really driving this home. In northern Wisconsin and western Pennsylvania, places like that, he is going to do a lot worse in these rural, predominantly white areas than anybody thinks. And Cecile knows this too. She's from Texas. This is going to be driven by women. They have had enough of this all across the country, not just in the urban areas. They know what's happened to them, and they know what's happening to their children. They know what's happening to their husbands, and you can feel it coming.
And how exciting, James, to think. Well, just to think, this is the 100th anniversary of women beginning to get the right to vote in this country. And to think on the 100th anniversary this November, we'll not only elect a new president, women will be the majority of voters, but for the first time, we will have a woman in the executive branch because we'll have a woman vice president. I'm telling you, women are excited about it. Of course, we're all on edge waiting to hear, but whoever this woman is, we're going to get behind big time.
Well, that's a
the
point.
Attitude. That's the attitude. We're behind whoever it is. We're on the team. Let's roll.
Well, I hear it. And Cecile, we've got a little more on what you're referencing, which is Joe Biden pledging to have a gender diversity ticket. He's made that pledge. We have more on that later in the show. And James Carville, I love having you on as a student of politics. I mean, I remember growing up watching The War Room, where you talk about Bush Sr. So yesterday, he looks like an old calendar. And when you're on here, it's the same voice. You know, I'd say in a good way, you haven't changed in decades.
Well, thank you, Art. That means a lot to me, and I love being on the show with Cecile. She was an old dear friend. Her mother was a very, very dear friend of mine. She comes from a great lineage, and she's doing a great job, and she's standing up for these women around the country, and they're ready to go. Yeah, I can feel it in my bones.
Amen, and happy to do an Ann Richards shout out on our way out of the segment. Cecile and James, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
you.